Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here, and boy do I have a special treat for you. As you guys probably already know, I'm a huge Joe Bonamassa fan, and I've seen Joe in concert more than I have anybody else. And and I plan to see him a whole bunch more times. The guy never fails to disappoint. But there's a guy that's been playing on stage with Joe since the pandemic. Phenomenal artist in his own right, a guitar prodigy in his own right, very similar to how Joe is, and other people that we've had on this show. And I've been wanting to talk to him for a long time, and I finally had the privilege of doing so. His name is Josh Smith, and he's always on stage with Joe these days. He's Joe's wingman, and these guys play off each other so well. And Josh on his own is a phenomenal guitarist in so many genres. It's unbelievable. But at heart, he's a blues man. I wanted to talk to him when I saw this new single come out called No Blues Left to Give. And as you'll hear on the interview, he's got some news on what else may be following there. But he is just so much fun to talk to. We're all over the map, not just on his music, but the business in general, some of our mutual friends, some of whom we've talked to here on this show. And it's just a very laid back conversation, which you come to expect here on Boomerocity. As always, I ask as you're listening to this, please hit like. If there's a like button on the platform that you're listening to this on, or if you're watching this on YouTube or other video formats, then please hit subscribe because that helps us out and it shouldn't be costing you a dime. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope are many, many more interviews with guitar great Josh Smith. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
Yep, I can hear you.
Great. I can hear you.
Good deal. Good deal. Where are you clicking in from?
I'm at home in Los Angeles.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. Well, I'm up in the Smoky Mountains way down south.
Oh, really? Where at?
It's Sevierville. I'm just a couple miles up the road from Dollywood.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Nice.
in fact, I caught Joe's show in Cherokee right after he had the wisdom tooth thing that he was talking about on stage. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
he he looked like he was feeling pretty good. So,
It was a casino, right?
yeah, big room there.
Yeah.
So, but how long? I I was trying to figure out how long you have been touring with him so far.
Pretty much since since the end of COVID, so the back half of 2021.
Now you were on the at the Ryman show that he did to the cardboard cutouts, right?
I
No?
wasn't at
Oh, I thought you were. Okay. All right.
that one. I wasn't at.
All righty.
That
Well,
was during the throes of COVID. I started with them their first like real tour out of after COVID, like end of 2021.
okay. All righty. That's interesting. Okay, because I thought I could have sworn I saw you on that stage, but I haven't gone back to watch the DVD
No,
except
there's a
right
different
after I
guitar
got it.
player playing with him at that show. This guy, uh, what's this? Rob McNally.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, man, I there's a couple things I want to get to before the we get to your song, your single, and I presume an album coming out on the heels of that. But I uh, I first got the idea to want to talk to you, which was right around the time I interviewed Andy Timmons a couple months ago, and he was telling me the story about how you guys got together and worked. He talked to you about working on his new album, and it had to do with a car wreck or something, right?
Well, they're not 100% related. This was the second album I've produced for Andy. He did one a couple years ago. Actually, also right. He was here in 2020 in January during NAMM, and we did his last album, Electric Truth. We recorded
Hmm.
here at my studio where I'm sitting now, and
Wow.
yeah, then he wanted to do a new record. So I guess it was maybe 2024 January where we did that one. But the car wreck was I was on the road with Joe, and we were in Andy's area, and
Hmm.
I'm one of those guys who searches out food wherever I am. Like whatever the special food is in that area, I'm going to search it out. And in
Hmm.
Texas, that means I want barbecue, you know.
There you
And
go.
so there was a barbecue place that had won best in the nation outside Fort Worth called Goldie's, and I'd been watching videos of it for over a year and wanting to go there. And I knew we were playing close enough in Dallas, and they're only open on the weekends, and we were there on a weekend. And I thought, heck, we have a long ride in Dallas that night, which means getting to the hotel like 3 in the morning. You have to get to this place and line up sometimes at 5, 6 in the morning if you want the barbecue. So I
Wow.
said, I'm just gonna stay up and Uber out there and get barbecue. I'll stay up when the bus gets to the hotel. Stay up, go get the barbecue. Well, I told Andy, and he was like, "I'll go with you." So he picked me up in the morning, and we drove, and we got in a car accident on the way to the barbecue.
Well, good thing it wasn't a bad omen, so.
No, I mean we ended up. They had to tow his car, so his wife came and picked us up, and we continued on to the barbecue, and that was a
That's what he said.
success. It was great.
Well, I used to live, gosh, probably, I'm guessing, because if it was a straight line, I lived maybe 2 blocks from Andy when I used to live in McKinney.
McKinney,
And
okay, wow.
yeah, and I lived in Texas when I started Boomerocity. In fact, the first time I saw Joe in concert was around 2012 or 13 in I guess it was at Grand Prairie at the venue there, or Dallas. I forget which one. But the friend that turned me on to Joe was going to be in town on business. I said, and Mike Jensen gave me tickets to see because he was handling Joe's publicity at the time. And so anyway, that's where I first saw Joe back then. And so but yeah, it was Andy's a great guy, man. I just
One of the greatest.
one of the sweetest souls you'll ever meet or work with.
Yeah, besides being one of the best guitar players on the planet, he's
Yeah,
one of the nicest human beings, without question.
yeah. Well, I underappreciated as a guitarist too. I feel he could, but one thing, and I didn't mean to get off on this, guy crush thing on Andy or anything, but one thing that struck me is when his son was younger, Andy made the conscious decision to not be on the road all the time because he was working with Olivia at the time and was in demand to help out other bands and all that, and he wanted to be around for a lot of his sons growing up. And I mean, that just, aside from Andy being the kind of person he is already, to have heard that story just put him orders of magnitude further up the chain as far as I'm concerned. So
He's a
but
great.
yeah, he is. Well, the one thing I want to mention to you, and then we can get into this music, is reading up on you. One thing I was really impressed by on your story is the fact, if I read it correctly, is the fact that your parents sold their diner in support of your career. I mean, that's mind blowing to me. That shows love. That shows commitment to your talent and your gift. It's more than just a talent. Talent can be developed. A gift is given and developed. And I was blown away by that part of your story, man. So please let your parents know I'm a fan of theirs as well. Okay.
My parents were always incredibly supportive. They did have restaurants. They didn't exactly sell their diner. They just went into debt, for me, like getting a van and things like that. They had a few different restaurants over the years. So both my parents are very smart individuals with masters in psychology, and they both
Ah.
worked in that field and kind of hit the wall on corporate. My dad was in corporates, like working for businesses, doing their HR departments and stuff, and my mom was doing
Mhm.
psychology. And they both, they're old hippies, who love music, and they had decided kind of they were done with wearing suits and ties and working 9 to 5 and well, not 9 to 5, but working that environment. And my dad was always a great cook, and he decided he wanted to try restaurants, and so they tried a handful of restaurants, and it happened to be at the same time in my age where I was coming up and kind of figuring out what I was doing. So they were always going out of their way to take me to the places I wanted to go, to see the bands I wanted to see. And then once I started playing gigs to support me, take me to gigs, even if it meant getting up early to go to the restaurant after being out late with me as a kid. And then my dad did something really cool, which was there was a famous music club in Fort Lauderdale where I grew up called the Musicians Exchange, legendary place that no longer exists, but everyone played there. And they had a restaurant in there, a kitchen in the club, and the person who was running it stopped. And my dad said to the owner, who had become friendly with because we've been going, hey, I'll take over the restaurant. That way I can come and Josh can hang out and we could be in the back. So that was big because I would go with him every Friday and Saturday if I wasn't playing gigs to see who was there in the club. And it would be jazz and blues and rock and roll, all sorts of classic names. And I'd just sit in the back in the kitchen with him. I had a little amp and I would bring my guitar and play. And inevitably the people would be sound checking and they'd come around the corner to see where that guitar was coming from. And I met a lot of cool people and did a lot of cool things because of that. So that was incredibly supportive. Yeah.
Well, that's not. I mean, look, a little bit different scenario, but not unlike Joe's upbringing. No wonder you guys get along so well. You know.
We have very similar upbringings, blue collar families, middle class, um, very supportive parents. Joe's father
Hmm.
played guitar a little bit and was more into guitar. My dad didn't. Does he always jokes he plays the stereo. My parents are not musical. Um, but very supportive, and willing to take us to play and go to these jams and start doing things. And yeah, we do have a lot of similarities in our background, Joe and I.
Well, there's a guy locally here, young guy, and I know you're probably thinking that I'm about to say Andy Wood, and I'm not. But Andy's amazing too.
Andy's
Another Andy. And but there was a kid that grew up here. I became an instant fan of his, blues guitarist, and now he works out of Nashville, and you may have heard of him. Do you know Austin Crum?
no,
No, he's you need to look him up. He's very, very good. He does a lot of mostly backup, very similar to you. More often, playing for people and behind the scenes does session work and such. And just a wonderful young man, raised right. His parents are amazing. I love them all dearly. And but he cut his teeth on blues, and he's a big time Stevie Ray fan. So
sure.
if you're ever in Nashville, I'm sure you are with Joe having a place there. You might want to see if you can look him up. I forget who he's playing with now. He's with one of the country artists, but his DNA is full of blues. So I think you two would get along. In fact, funny thing, I'll use this as a lead in to how varied you are in your taste. Vince Gill once told Austin, "Look, play anything you can, any genre. Just play, and try to master all of them that you could." And right after that, the local blues society, one of the bozos in that, um, and I have a reason for saying it, went up to Austin and said, "Kid, you need to focus on one genre or the other. You'll never make it." And he goes, "Well, sir, Vince Gill told me I should diversify. I think I'll listen to Vince." So, but you do the same thing. I mean, you play. I mean, blues is your love from everything I've read, and obviously touring with Joe. But you've mastered a lot of other genres, have you not?
Well, I just love all music, and while if you pin me down and ask me, what do I consider myself? Yes, I consider myself a blues guitarist first because
Mm-hmm.
that's my home base. That's what I love. It's where I started. It's what I'll always love, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I love jazz and I love R&B and soul and I love country music and I love rock and roll, and so I try to let everything influence my playing. And that wasn't always easy as a youngster because you had guys like people you were talking about. The blues is a weird world that almost dis disencourages people from growing and bettering
Mm.
themselves as musicians, because if you do that, then you're not real blues anymore, you know? And
Yeah, if you're not broke, you're not blues, right?
well, yeah, there's that too, but there's always this weird notion of you're if you're not doing it the way they did it in 1961 or 1955, that you're not blues. Or if you grow and become better as a musician, if you learn to read music, if you get more interested in more gear and you want to use this pedal or that, and you become more diverse in those types of things, then you're not playing real blues. You can only play straight into the amp, blah blah blah. And there was a definite period of my childhood where I fell into that. And then there was the moment of bullshit, knock down that wall, and just because I want to grow and better myself and diversify myself does not mean that I'm not a blues guitar player or that I don't put the blues first. But I needed to recognize that first before I kind of allowed myself to go through it.
Well, you saying that reminded me. I've talked to a lot of lower level blues people who, whenever obviously I'm a big Bonamassa fan, but I would mention him, and they would kind of look down their nose. He's not a real blues guy. He's too successful, you
I
know.
hear it all
But
the time. Yeah.
but I mean, I think his success is raising a lot of other ships in that blues genre sea. And but one thing I wanted to find out from you is, isn't that by, for instance, you and Joe, you and others, you play with a lot of different people. You mentioned Andy too, or we both did. Do you find that's more of an iron sharpening iron type of thing where you both are helping each other be better at your craft, or are you more learning or more teaching? How does that work for you?
Oh, I'm learning in every scenario. That's just my personality is, whether other people are getting something from me, okay, I hope so. But I take everything as growth and creative betterment, I guess. I'm always in the mindset of being better tomorrow than I was today at whatever it
Hmm.
is. So like everything I do, I produce a lot of records, and that was something I never thought I would ever get into. And I became hooked on it mostly because of how much I realized it was making me grow as a
Hmm.
musician, and all the things I was learning from being around these other artists and helping them achieve their goals and finding new ways creatively to do things that I wouldn't have thought of, because I was just wearing a different hat and looking at things from a different perspective. So that's the way I approach everything. I'm always trying to grow and better myself. When I'm around other musicians, I'm trying to pick up little things, that I can bring back into my little box and add to my vocabulary. So yeah, definitely looking to grow from whoever I'm around.
Cool. Well, man, I love this single of yours. I was reading we're Facebook friends. I know you wouldn't remember me being on there because I lay kind of low on other people's pages, but I was struck by something you said. You said you were getting a lot of comments by people that said they didn't realize you sang, and you said, "Well, you obviously haven't been listening to my records." So,
Yeah. Well,
but this,
that's a weird thing that's followed me for 20 years. I have a lot of fans who just know me as this guitar player guy, you know what I mean? And they've
hmm
maybe seen uh, clinics I've done or guitar playery shit, interviews in magazines or interviews like this, or lessons and things, and they just think of me as this guitar player. And it lets me know, not that it's bad, but like, oh, you've never actually maybe listened to my music, which is weird to me because that's what I am first and foremost, as an
hmm
artist and a
hmm
musician. So it always surprises me sometimes when people will go, "Man, you have a good voice. I didn't know you sang." I'm like, dude, I have like 12 albums of singing in the last 20. I sing on everything. So you've never
hmm
seen a show, because if you've been to a show of mine, you've seen I'm singing all night. If you ever
hmm
watch any YouTube other than just the lessons or interviews or guitar type stuff, then you're never seeing me. That's weird. You've never seen any like of me playing songs. Well, they're all vocal songs. You know what I mean? Like,
hmm hmm
so that's always surprising to me, but it happens a lot.
Well, what's striking me about guys such as yourself and others, how busy you guys stay. I mean, whether you're you tour with Joe, then you've got your studio there, you're doing your own stuff. I mean, you guys have to stay pretty busy, kind of keep bread on the table and the lights turned on, right?
We have to, that's the difference in today's day and age for musicians. You have to be so diverse in all the revenue streams that you can generate and acquire to make ends meet because it's not like, back in the day. If you were a guitar player in a band back in the day and you got a record deal and you had a hit of consequence, there's a chance you could develop generational wealth for your
Yeah,
family. That doesn't exist anymore from that.
no,
You can still generate generational wealth, but you have to do it in a different way.
yeah.
But for the normal people like me, the meat and potatoes, someone who wants to be a working musician, you have to figure out many, many avenues. So I have many, many avenues. I have my own music, of course, first and foremost. I have the producing of other artists. I have the session guitar player guy who just gets hired to play guitar. I have the sideman guitar player guy, which I've done for years, touring with different artists. Um,
Hmm.
I have the guy who has developed a currency for knowing what he's talking about with tone. So I have gear companies that like to work with me because I have good ideas and I make products that maybe other people are interested in. And so I have
Hmm.
some products that I've helped develop and have my names on them that I get receive royalties from. That's another stream. And then I have like instructional material because some people want to learn from me or things that I have to say. They find them interesting. And so I have those things that get sold. That's a big pie of things. And it takes all of that to almost add up to break even. You know what I mean? It's not an
Hmm.
easy business.
No, I'm a business geek first and foremost, and music. I love to. I mean, I'm not a musician, so I get off watching and listening to guys like you, but just the whole business model behind the very successful people is what I love seeing. You just describing your setup and your revenue streams, and of course, Joe has his from soup to nuts. I mean, he's got that mastered. And I think of all artists should watch that model there because
Well, yeah,
that's
but a
the only
lot of
way you
people
get.
don't realize with Joe, because of the success level that he's reached now, they don't tend to take stock of the 20 plus years before that
Mm-hmm.
where they were scuffling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I know this because I've known him and I was there. I was doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of dedication and dues that have to be paid to eventually get these things to pay off and be self-sustaining, it takes a very long time. Joe was a child like I was when he started this, and when he really started to finally break through and make some money, he was in his 30s, almost his mid 30s. That's 20
Mm-hmm.
plus year runway, of eating ramen and living in a one bedroom apartment and
Mm-hmm.
paying your bills because he comes from a normal middle class family the way I did. Now, the difference between Joe and I on that front is Joe stuck to it 100%. Joe has never done anything but Joe Bonamassa music. You know what I mean? He never ventured off the course. He never got out of the van and went and been a sideman for somebody else. He never got out of the van and went and been a session guitar player or taught lessons or any of that. He just did, I'm going to do this until it pays off. And that takes a lot of fortitude. But also he's not married. He doesn't have kids. I had to do things a little bit differently. I got married and had kids and changed my life to figure out how to grow and become a different adult because I had different things to do, and different things I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to accomplish. But that's where our paths kind of varied. We started very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, what's harder to write, music or lyrics?
Oh, um, probably lyrics that mean anything. I can write lyrics anytime, but I'm not good at writing for no reason,
Yeah.
or writing like as a job. I'm not good at that. I don't like to be forced to like, oh, you need a song like this. Let me just sit down and write it right now because I have to. Or I'm not one of those guys who sets aside time every day to write songs like a machine, like it's on my schedule. I write when I get an idea or when I'm inspired because
Mm-hmm.
inevitably those songs I end up liking them better. They stick around and I'll follow them through because they feel organic. They feel like
Yeah.
actually inspired. So sometimes I don't write for little periods of time. because I'm busy and I'm not getting ideas. And it's weird how that works too. When you're busy, sometimes you can be inspired all the time because you're being creative. And sometimes you're just so busy that you're tired and you never think you may not even recognize when you're getting ideas because you're tired and you're just
Yeah.
busy, busy. But I tend to write more when I'm inspired. And that's sometimes I would say 50-50 what comes first, the lyrics or the music. I could be on the bus rolling down the road in the middle of the night between gigs, trying to get to the next city and have some chord changes hit me or a melody. I might not even have a guitar, so I'll just kind of hum it and into my phone or write down. I can write down. I have relative pitch, not perfect pitch. So I know like if I hear a chord, ba da da, I know the intervals between those chords. I don't know what key I'm thinking about yet, but I can write down, oh, I
Hmm.
hear six minor to four to one or something like that. So I'll
Hmm.
just write down an idea or a melody. And same thing lyrically. If I get a hook in my head, I'll just write it down. Um, it's about 50-50 what comes first,
I
whether it's
see.
lyric or music.
Well, tell me about this song here. I love it. And I hope there's a bunch more that's going to come with it on an album.
There is more coming. I've been kind of sitting on this material, debating what I wanted to release next because, like we talked about earlier, I just like a lot of stuff. And I've always released the records that I want to release and what I'm feeling like at that moment. I mean, my last release was a big band album, because that's what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So for this project, I wanted to have some stuff in the can that was more like what I did when I was much younger, more straight ahead kind of trio, a little more
Hmm.
rock. Which this song kind of I wrote this a while ago. This song, the idea of no blues left to give, and it was kind of like I was just having one of those days where like I got nothing, nothing left. As you know, I left it all at the office basically, and and I just thought it was a good idea, the No Blues Left to Give. So yeah, I recorded it. Actually, I recorded this song with Calvin and Lamar, the rhythm section that plays with me and also plays with Joe, or that's how they ended up playing with Joe is because I brought I brought them in the band. But we recorded this song the day after we recorded my big band record. Literally, like we recorded a big band album
Wow.
and I had this bunch of songs and I said, "Well, let's get another day after and do some completely different stuff, the three of us." And we did. So this song was recorded literally the day after the Bird of Passage album, along with a bunch of other songs, which eventually will be an album. But like I said, I was vacillating on what to put out next. I also have another project that's more straight blues that I kind of was leaning towards. Oh, I want to release this more blues album because I just go through these periods of oh fuck it, I just want to play the blues. That happens a lot because that's here. So
Yeah.
every 6 months I change and I'm just like I just want to play the blues. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a record coming. I don't know when, um, but yeah, that's the story behind the No Blues Left
Well,
to
let's
Give.
make sure we talk when closer to when the album comes out so I can do my part to help. I mean, I'm not I say this and then I got to tell you a Joe story. I'm not Rolling Stone magazine, thank God, but I do have following around the world. And I got Joe off the last time I interviewed him. I mentioned Rolling Stone magazine or the fundraising he did during COVID. Oh my God, did I light a fuse on that one? Woo! But but so yeah, I wanna help get the word out on yourself. Now, what so will this album that this song's on, will it be more bluesy or are you going to mix it up a bit or
It'll be
what do
more.
you see coming?
It's more blues rock for sure
Good. Yeah.
than anything I've done in a while. A little more trio. So for me, when I do these records, especially like more of a blues rock record, I like them to be kind of organic. So like No Blues Left to Give. If you listen to the track, there's two guitars on the track, but the main guitar I track live with the band, including the solo. So like stuff that's underneath the solo, I'll go back and add a guitar. But I try to track my stuff as live as possible. I like the solos to be taken on the floor and playing with the band, um, like like the way all our heroes did their records back in the day. Uh,
Hmm.
So that's the way this record, in my mind, that's the way it'll be, is kind of an organic, little bit heavier record than what I've been doing lately, but simple.
I'll ask you this again when closer to when the album comes out, but I'm dying to know it now. What's been the biggest difference for you in recording this song or this album of songs compared to everything else you've worked on?
Oh, well, whenever I get the time to actually record some of my stuff, which is, a little few and farther between these days because I'm just busy, I'm struck by how much my producing has now influenced when I get to do my own thing. All the
Mm,
outside projects, because I'm in the studio constantly now doing other people's music.
mhm,
And I realized when doing some of these songs that over the years, I maybe hadn't put the amount of scrutiny and effort, not effort, but scrutiny and just like thought and production into my own stuff the way I was doing when I was producing records for other people, because I'm coming at that completely different. I'm sitting there listening and I'm evaluating and making judgment calls and helping someone else achieve their goal. I'm not always just viewing it through the lens of Josh Smith, like, hey, this is what I sound like, this is what I do. So I on my stuff, I realized I tended to move even faster than I move in when I'm producing. I just know, oh, I like that, let's go, commit. But I wasn't like, examining everything and being maybe as open to other ideas and building things the way that I do when I produce. So
mhm,
that's something that has helped me a lot, like in some of this new stuff, trying to approach it a little bit more the way that I do when I approach producing for other artists, but
mhm,
doing my own
mhm.
stuff.
So if you were a music made the music czar of the world and you were in charge of the entire music business world, uh, and I'm going to admit to you up front, I read another interview that you gave, and I have an idea where you might how you might answer on this, but I found it interesting. What would you do to change the business or fix it, or do you think the business needs to be fixed?
Does it need to be fixed? That's tough because the old days are not coming back. The ship has
Right.
sailed, the genie is out of the bottle, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's gone. I mean, the part that bums me out, my son is 19 years old. He's never owned a physical piece of music. You know what I mean? He's never owned any
Wow.
CDs or records or anything. Everything is on his phone. Everything is streamed. I don't even know that he has a library. He probably just streams everything. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel like it doesn't mean that people don't love music. It's obvious when you look at Coachella and other things going on, people still love music. People go to concerts and festivals, they listen to music, but I don't think it's valued as highly as it was
I agree.
back when we waited in line on Tuesdays or Fridays for the new
Hmm.
record. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's become something that people just know is free. And so, how can you value something higher when you know it's free? And that doesn't mean it's their fault or anybody's fault. That's the world that we're living in. But it's
Yeah,
just hard to be valued the same way. So, the people that I see making a difference and having success now are people who have actually shrunk their worlds down and have focused on making music for the people that really love them and getting them to buy their products. So it means owning what you do 100% and selling it to a passionate fan base of people that are your fans. So,
mhm,
maybe using the old business model, you would sell if you were huge and you sold 1 million records, but you got 10% of that pie, you made a certain amount of money, but you were very famous. Now it's different. If you sell 10,000 records but own every cent of it, you will make maybe more money than you would have made in the other model, but you're
mhm.
just not as big as far as worldwide fame and you're not selling as many tickets. But you have to be smart. You got to cultivate that audience and get them. I read something many years ago that has stuck when all this streaming happened was if you can get like look at my Instagram following. I have 100+ thousand Instagram followers. So let's say I can get half of them, 50,000, to buy one thing a year, whether it's one single or a t-shirt or a book or a pedal or a guitar or something that I'm involved in. If I can do that, I'm going to have success. So
Mhm.
it's about marketing to the people who are your circle. You're like really honing in and zeroing in on your fans and your people. It's much more macro as opposed to, you know, blown up.
It's like the old bands and gospel groups back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, man. They sold it out from the bus and from the trunk of a car. And high tech wise, that's kind of where we're at today, I think.
Well, I leave Thursday to go to Europe for my own tour, and it's the first tour like this of my own that I've done since before COVID.
Wow.
Which so I'm really looking forward to. I got 3 weeks of Europe gigs. I haven't been to Europe on my. I've been to Europe a lot with Joe and other people since then, but not on my own. So it's going to be great to play a bunch of gigs, and I got to bring CDs because in Europe especially, and in those type of venues, not theaters but clubs, 300
Hmm.
seaters, 500 seaters, 200 seaters, they will buy CDs at the end of the gig. Maybe they don't even
Hmm.
have CD players, but they will buy them because you're going to sit there at the table and talk to them and shake their hand and sign
That's
CDs.
right.
So I will sell physical media for the only time ever, probably is at these gigs. And it's because of the connection between the artist and the fan. They want a connection. So again, it's about dialing in on that. That's
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
I think that's the way you do it these days.
Well, and I mean, when we were growing up, well, I'm older than you. I'm probably close. I'm probably your parents' age. I'll be 66 in October.
Yeah.
So, growing up, what were the odds of us meeting our favorite artist?
Yeah.
Very, very small. Now, because of social media and because artists such as yourself are getting out there at the merch tables and meeting with the fans, except with the little hiccup of COVID and, on and shortly after, people get them. And when a fan can say, "Hey, I got to talk to Josh,"
Yeah.
and I comment on Josh's post and he comments back, "Hey, we're friends." They'll go tell all their friends, "I'm friends with Josh Smith." And that I think builds such a strong base for you guys that makes all the difference in a world that we wouldn't have had with our favorite artists, prior to all of this taking place.
But our favorite artists didn't have to do that because
True.
they were making enough money in the old model. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even though they were
true.
still getting ripped off, the pie was so big that they were often making enough money off concerts and records. Like I said, I mean, it's funny when you meet some of the real like legends of rock and roll from the heyday, and you
Hmm.
realize like, wait a minute, if you were, I mean, like let's just say for example, like if I was Neil Sean in Journey or whatever, if you have that many hits, that's generational wealth. So much so that they're fighting each other over it constantly. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
but I mean that's Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty and bands like that. That's life changing stuff. Where you're set up for the rest of your life. You just keep playing gigs and getting your royalties. And yeah, that those days are gone. Like
yeah,
you have to go out there and press the flesh and kiss babies and shake hands and all that.
yeah. Run for that office. Well, saying that reminds me of something Andy Timmons said to me. We went to go see Boston together there in Grand Prairie, and he had just come out with, or was either about to, or just had come out with his Sergeant Pepper instrumental album. And he was telling me on the way down there, he goes, "Randy," he goes, "I'm just trying to put some things together so I have something for my son to be able to, something that he can inherit, something that he can benefit from." And, that's when the realization hit me because that was early on, in my Boomerocity creation there. started learning really, just because you get a record contract doesn't mean you're instantly wealthy and have the private planes and limos. You guys have to bust your butt just to keep things going, let alone, to use your excellent phrase, generational wealth. I mean, that goal is harder and harder to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking, as an observer of Andy and watching his career, because I mean, Andy's more than 50, he's 15 years older than me, you know what I mean? And actually a few more than that. And he, he's had such an amazing career. But I know in the past 5 years, the biggest game changer for him has been some of the pedals that he's designed with Robert Keeley, as far as
Hmm.
financially, helping, and
Hmm.
that enables him to then make more record, make it come here and make a second record with me, and put more music out because he's got revenue coming in from this stream that most people wouldn't even consider. You know what I
Right.
mean? You wouldn't even think about that. And those are the things that are keeping the lights on, not the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is funny, but that's the day and age that we live in.
How do you think AI is going to impact music?
Um, well, it's already doing it. I mean, the main thing it's doing is diluting the streaming pool even further. You've already got so much music up there every day. It's like how many I saw some stat, I don't remember, but every day an absurd amount of new tracks gets uploaded to Spotify and Tidal every day. Um, because anybody can make this music. Well, now with AI, anybody can make this music and pretend they wrote it and pretend they are the artist, pretend they did, and start uploading these records and getting them into an algorithm. And people are listening. Sometimes they don't even know what they're listening to. You know what I mean? When they're listening to a playlist, they're streaming, they're shuffling, and it's like that's just diluting the pool even further. And I mean, you're already getting fractions of pennies, and now you're splitting it with fake music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
The
That's
machine.
that's a weird thing. I don't know where I sit on music created by AI that then is recorded by real people. I feel slightly weird about that. Like let's say I prompted Chat GPT or one of these AI things, hey, write me a song in the style of this, a slow song that has the lyrics blah 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 and features spaghetti western style guitar and this and this and this, and something comes out and you like it. Let's say you tweak that and then record it on your own with a real musician. Did you write that song? Did you write that song?
Yeah, I see what you mean. You inspired it,
But
but
did you write it? But I can guarantee you that 75% of people who are going to do that are absolutely going to claim they wrote it, register it as
yeah,
a song they wrote, and never tell anybody what the
yep,
origin of it is. And then on
yep,
top of that, you're going to get ones where they do it, and not only do they not tell you, they use the AI song, the track itself, and just get rid of the vocal, the fake vocal, and sing on top of it with a real vocal. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Well, then is that a real? What's that? Did you write that? You didn't even record it. It's a gray area, and
yeah.
it's already happening. It's already that stuff is happening.
I hope it could. I mean, people are going to do it, and they're going to cheat. However, they're going to cheat. I look at it for ideas, but I did today. This whole thing with James Comey seeing the seashells on the beach. 8647. And so I told it just this morning. I posted it on Facebook. I said I told ChatGPT to create another beach message made out of shells on a watery beach to watch Boomerocity. And dang, it did a good job of it. So I said James Comey found another message on the beach. But hopefully people know that that's spoofed. They know I'm not artistic and I don't live near a beach, so I had to do something with that. They know me well enough to know I'm pulling their leg, but I would never want to have a machine create something that really I had no talent in doing and putting it out there. I just hope the rest of the world kind of goes that way, like you were talking about, just let it give you ideas, but don't,
Yeah,
you know,
unfortunately, there will be a percentage that use it that way, but there's going to be a large percentage that takes advantage of it to the
yep,
full.
yep, I
Where
agree.
it's going to hurt the most is not for like a normal artist who makes music. They're always going to make music. If they use it to help them, they use it to help them. Where it's really going to hurt is in like the composers who make music for film and television and video games, because that's the bottom line on that is such a it's how much does this cost to add to my movie? How much does this cost to add to my television
Yep,
show, my commercial, my trailer, my video game?
yep,
Well, why not just tell the computer what I want? And make me an ominous song, that goes like this and is this long and is inspired by the music from this other video game that my video game is like. You know what I mean? And then
hmm,
just drop it in there and not have to pay a cent to anybody. The people lose jobs because of that.
that's right. Well,
Not just
I've,
composers, but the musicians they hire, the studios that they work in, all those things.
yep, it has a rippling effect that can be devastating. Well, I've told other artists what I hope AI does is that first of all, I hope the streaming services come up with a dynamic royalty pay so that whoever, I know they write checks, figuratively speaking, every month that goes out to whoever is supposed to get paid on the music. What I wish they would do is you take me, I pay Apple whatever it is, $16, $17 a month. And let's say all I do is listen to all your albums back to back for this month. All right, well then whatever of that $16, $17 they're going to pay, that should all go to you because they served you up on that platform and I got to listen to you. The next month it might be divided between you and Joe and Andy and you get the point. And then and so AI can monitor that and divvy up that pie. And then secondly, what I wish it would do is kind of go Doge on it all and reach out through the ether and monitor when it's being played so that you get a fair accounting of your music being played, whether it's in a club over the sound system or on satellite radio or wherever, that it would help, accumulate the data so that you get a fair accounting and the people that are playing it are actually paying. I hope that happens at least in your lifetime.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know what the answer is for streaming because Mike, I wonder, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I wonder what percentage of people under 25 pay for Spotify or Tidal or still are just on free.
Well, their parents may be paying it. Who knows? but
Yeah.
but your valid point, and that's still the Napster effect, right? So back when you had distributed servers and it would just pull the songs from a variety of different points and offer it up for free. But I don't know. I don't mind paying for it. I just what I have a problem with, Josh, and maybe you can answer this question. For instance, when I post this interview, I would love nothing more than to use a segment of the song and pull in some video of you performing and all that. But YouTube, I mean, to their credit, they monitor that very, very well. They will not let me use anything that's copyrighted, even in a right to use or sample type of mode. And I appreciate that, but to get somebody to be interested in this song and your album, if I could use 15 seconds of it, against a backdrop of you performing or whatever, how they do it on TV. I'm still learning that stuff, but that would be helpful. And even if it were to, all right, Randy, if you're going to do that, you pay a certain amount a month to YouTube for that privilege, and then out of that they pay you the royalties on it. I mean, I think there's a workable solution there, but right now when I have to put things up, I don't know if you know Quentin Hope, he's a friend of Andy's, but he is who does my song on the front end of my and the tail end of my interviews, and it's called Roll the Dice. Great musician there in the North
I met
Texas
him at
area.
the Guitar Sanctuary. I think I met
Yeah,
him there.
yeah. George and oh God, I interviewed George's wife. Slip in
Yeah,
my mind. They had their own band there, but I
right.
remember Guitar Sanctuary when it was in the small space, not in the big one they have now. They built that after I moved, but yeah, I mean, I just I would love to be able to have that so I could present a better product because otherwise I have to use just my regular song that I have permission to use,
Sure.
and YouTube doesn't stop me on that, but it doesn't help me much in the way of promoting the artist's songs more when I'm interviewing them. So I hope that gets worked out in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not foolproof on YouTube. I mean, I've had issues with putting my own songs in video where I've released them in conjunction with European labels before. Some of these things, even though I own it 100%, it'll get flagged immediately.
Yep, yep,
It's but I own it. You know.
yeah. Yeah, hopefully they get it all worked out. But well, Josh, one final question for you. I know you got a lot to do, and I've certainly appreciated your time here. What haven't you done yet musically, or who haven't you worked with yet that you want to do or work with?
Wow. What haven't I done musically? Plenty. There's a lot on my plate that I would like to accomplish in the future, just in terms of my own music. Like there's a lot of projects and things that I would like to do. Um, you know, different like I want to make like I was talking about earlier, I want to make another like very straight blues record. I want to make another live album. I want to make another jazz album. I want to, there's lots of things that I want to accomplish with my own music. There's a lot of people I would like to just play with and make music with. Uh, some of that aren't artists. They are artists, but it's like, oh, I've never played with Brian Blade, a drummer that I admire. He doesn't even know who I am, but whatever. That's somebody I want to make music with one day, just one time. Or Charlie Drayton, another drummer. I just want to play with Charlie Drayton one time. Steve Gadd. I want to play with Steve Gadd one time before it's too late. There's a lot of people like that on my list. As far as producing, I do have a wish list of people that I would like to produce. Some of them are, again, before it's too late, older gentlemen or artists. Others are just, pipe dreams, bigger artists, that I think it would be fun to be in a room with. Um, and some are just some of the people I'm big fans of, like Eric Johnson. I love Eric Johnson and we're friends. I would love
Great
to help
guy.
produce a record for Eric Johnson. And Joe and I
Hmm.
have talked to him about that. But Eric is likes to do everything himself. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I would love to just spend a few days with him in a room and do something a little different, and uh Robert Cray. Robert Cray, I would love to produce an album for Robert Cray. I'm a massive fan, have been most of my life.
Hmm.
And there's an album there that selfishly as a fan, I want to hear from him. So I would like to help him make it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of those things, that people that I would like to work with just selfishly because there's a record that I want to hear made that I feel like I could help, or because I want to hear it as a fan.
Hey, I just remembered something. I didn't write this down, but you and Joe opened for the Rolling Stones. How the heck was that?
That was cool. That came out of nowhere. It was kind of last minute. And Mick, I guess, they were doing the shows last year and all the people in the Keith and Mick and Ronnie and everybody put in like requests for who they would like to open. And Mick mentioned Joe to the management. So they reached out and asked Joe if he would open this show in
Wow.
Seattle. And that was really cool, to be around them. It was actually my second experience with Mick Jagger. Um,
Really?
yeah, so myself and Calvin, the bass player, and Lamar, the drummer who played with Joe, we used to tour with an artist named Raphael Sadiq and play
Hmm.
with him for many years. And we played with Mick on the Grammys many years ago, um,
Wow.
doing a tribute to Solomon Burke. Mick
Yeah.
called and asked us to back him up, called Raphael and asked he wanted Raphael's band to back him up to do the Solomon Burke tribute when Solomon Burke had just passed. And So that was really cool. We spent 3 days with Mick rehearsing and doing the Grammys, and he was such a kind, warm, really, really passionate guy. Like he's just so into music. He's super enthusiastic. And so yeah, this was the second time I was ever around him, but it was cool to do that. And actually now with Joe, later this year in September, we're doing a couple shows with The Who in Chicago. That'll be fun.
Really? Wow. Wow. I just interviewed Lauren Gold, their keyboard player, and he's also with Chicago.
So
And
Lauren I've known for 20 years. When I first
wow.
moved to LA, one of the first gigs I got as a sideman was with Taylor Hicks, who won American Idol.
Yep. Yep.
Lauren was in the band, and Lauren hired me to be the guitar player in the band,
I'll be darned.
musical director. Yeah.
Very cool. Very talented guy. But
I've known him for a very long time. Yeah.
well, cool. Small world amongst you guys there. So
Yeah.
well, Josh, I sure appreciate you taking this time, man. I've been wanting to talk to you ever since I saw you on stage with Joe, and knew you had a lot going on. And your wife Nikki was great to work with in getting this set up. And
Best.
my hats off to both of you. How great you worked well together. And
Thanks.
I,
I mean, she's such a massive help. In the busier I get, the more stuff falls through the cracks. And she jumps in and helps take care of those things because it used to be, just me kind of handling everything, and that
you
became
know,
untenable. I couldn't keep that up. And
I can relate.
yeah, okay.
But well, man, it was great working with her. And man, I'm going to keep an eye on your itinerary, whether it's solo or with Joe or with anybody else. And if you're within spitting distance of me here, I'll shoot you a note, and maybe we can meet up before the show or something. Say hi and see what else is going on. But man, when this album comes out, please let me know, and I'll keep an eye on things. And let's talk more in depth about the album itself, and I'll do my part to get the word out.
Will do. As soon as I know when I'm going to release it, I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, it stands to reason that it's not just that album, but anything else you got going on. My door is always open to you, Josh.
Appreciate that.
All right. Take care and stay well.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having
All
me.
right. Bye bye.